For nearly a century, American high schoolers faced an unyielding rite of passage: 3 hours of intense focus, number 2 pencils, and a standardized score that held the power to dictate exactly where you could go to college. Then, in March of 2020, the testing centers shut their doors. Forced to adapt to the pandemic, over 1,200 colleges and universities, including the massive University of California system, abruptly dropped the requirement. They went entirely test optional, or in some cases, test blind. High school students across the country celebrated the sudden removal of their biggest academic stressor. But inside university admissions offices, the mood was drastically different. Evaluators were suddenly flying blind. Eliminating the SAT did absolutely nothing to reduce the fierce competition for seats at top-tier universities. It simply destroyed the only shared, standardized yardstick those universities had to compare a student in rural Wyoming with a student in downtown Manhattan. Convinced they now had a shot without a test score holding them back, students flooded the system. Elite institutions saw a massive surge in applications, up to 51% in a single year, driving acceptance rates down into the low single digits. Admissions officers tried to lean on high school grades, but they quickly ran into a wall of grade inflation. Under immense pressure from parents and administrators to help students succeed, high schools have been awarding A's at record rates. When everyone looks like a straight A student, a 4.0 GPA loses its meaning. To break the ties, colleges leaned heavily into what they call holistic admissions. They began assigning massive weight to subjective metrics: personal essays, lists of extracurricular activities, and teacher recommendations. The removal of the test created an opaque, highly subjective sorting system. Without a hard, standardized number to anchor the evaluation, proving true academic merit became incredibly difficult. Long before the pandemic, a massive sociological movement had been fighting to kill the SAT. Their argument was straightforward: the test does not measure natural intelligence. Instead, it correlates directly with socioeconomic status, stable family structures, and race. This scatterplot charts income against average SAT scores. As family wealth increases, the average score tracks upward right alongside it. The lucrative test prep industry sells the idea that high scores can be bought, yet data shows expensive courses offer only a marginal 10 to 20-point bump. Still, public trust was completely shattered by events like the Varsity Blue scandal, where wealthy parents were caught illegally bribing proctors to inflate their children's scores. To the American public, the SAT no longer resembled an engine of meritocracy. To the public, the SAT no longer resembled an engine of meritocracy. It looked like a rigged game, a direct proxy for wealth and privilege. But after a few years of test-optional admissions, institutions like MIT, Dartmouth, and Brown analyzed the performance of their incoming classes. What they found in their own internal data forced them to reverse course entirely. Psychometricians measure intelligence using something called the G factor, or general cognitive ability. The SAT is meticulously engineered along a strict bell curve to test this exact factor by pushing a student's mental stamina, their working memory, and ability to integrate knowledge. This line graph illustrates exactly why colleges panicked. High school GPA alone is a surprisingly weak predictor of how well a student handles college coursework. But when you add the SAT back in, the combination accurately predicts a student's freshman GPA and likelihood of graduating. By dropping the test to increase fairness, universities had accidentally discarded the most scientifically reliable indicator of whether an applicant could actually survive their rigorous academic environments. The data revealed an even more uncomfortable truth. Without the SAT acting as an objective filter, wealthy applicants actually had an easier time getting accepted. Holistic metrics inherently favor families with money. Wealthy students have access to private essay tutors to polish their personal statements. They attend well-resourced high schools where counselors have the time to write glowing, personalized recommendations. An objective, standardized test was the sharpest tool admissions officers had to cut through that noise. A high SAT score is often the only way a brilliant student trapped in a failing, under-resourced school district can flag their potential to an Ivy League evaluator. The test-optional movement actively harmed the exact disadvantaged students it was designed to protect. Realizing this, elite universities had no choice but to bring the requirement back. To survive its reinstatement, the College Board knew the SAT had to evolve. In 2024, they scrapped the paper booklets entirely, moving the test onto a digital platform called the Blue Book app. This diagram illustrates the digital adaptive format. At 2 hours and 14 minutes, the software dynamically adjusts second module difficulty based on first module performance. This prevents choking on uniformly difficult exams, dynamically routing top students into the highest difficulty tier to measure their intellectual ceiling. The SAT is flawed, and its score distributions will always reflect the tragic realities of American economic inequality. But in an admission system plagued by inflated grades and subjective biases, a standardized test remains an unavoidable necessity to ensure true academic potential.